What's up guys, welcome back to my channel and I'm a fiction. I'm back with a new episode of What If Naruto Was the Immortal King of X-Men Part 4. And if you did enjoy the video, give this a like, and if you're new to my channel and like more content, subscribe and hit the notification bell for Microsoft Fictions. Now let's begin this new video.
11th chapter. Humanity itself was difficult to maintain at this juncture, when everything felt so irrelevant. Everything was defined by the pledges taken and the principles that defined your entire existence, since there was no reason to perform all of this without them. Naruto realized that engaging with people and having fun was necessary, or he would lose himself, because life had changed in his view. He could only recall it through the eyes of others, since he couldn't remember it himself.
People could be brought back if he so desired, and time could be reversed so that life appeared to have lost its consequences most of the time.
The cost of resurrecting humans was high, but Naruto could do it on a small scale. But he kept it under control, since life is incomplete without the threat of death. He didn't want to lose sight of the prospect of death and become thoughtless like the Otsutsuki, who didn't know what they were getting themselves into when they fought him. It was the reason Kurama was hyperactive, since a boring life would force him to lose all colors and return to sleeping.
"This is the life," Kurama yelled as he slashed Sentry with his claw, sending him tumbling through the moon while turning to Juggernaut and releasing an even more powerful beam.
A magical circle with unique wording floated around the beam, changing the property of the attack itself. Kurama had chosen to take things seriously and had given his strike the anti-regen and destruction properties. Anti-regen prevented the victim from regenerating, whereas destruction was a conceptual attack that destroyed all it touched. Obviously, it depended on how far you went with this concept, and both Naruto and Kurama were only scratching the surface.
The beam was so quick and so wide that it was difficult to avoid. It wiped out everything in its path, including air, light, and land.
The laser collided with the barrier, carving a massive tear in the world as it smashed onto Kane as he sped towards Kurama. Kurama growled and concentrated his attention on Kane, unleashing more strength, which he could see now, more. His attention was drawn to Kane, and Sentry flew towards him, his tails colliding with the man's. Sentry was taken aback by how skilled this monster was in combat. While the tails kept him busy, he was literally fixated on another person. He had never imagined a monster could fight so well.
However, the relentless force was still above his level, and Kurama felt him collide with his body, ripping a hole in his leg.
"How do you like that?" Kane yelled as he passed Kurama, continuing to run as his speed rose. Kurama was impressed by the immortal monster's might behind the human and approached Sentry.
"Sorry for keeping you waiting. Let's have a fun battle," Kurama stated as he finished with Kane, because there was nothing fun about hitting something that wasn't going to feel it.
"You may finish him now," Kurama heard and directed a laser at Kane. Naruto had temporarily disconnected the connection, and Kurama's assault had obliterated him from existence. Naruto had deemed him worthless because he had no remorse for all of his bad deeds. He was full of arrogance and looked down on others. He wanted to go through the city without hesitation towards Charles, despite the fact that millions of people would perish. Such heinous beings should never be allowed to wander the earth. Kane was lucky that Naruto believed in quick and painless death, because he may have experienced something even worse than death. One of the zones he had explored was darkness, and it was all about mind-shattering. Sentry was astounded by what had transpired, since, while he couldn't shatter Juggernaut, the monster had simply obliterated him. What kind of beast is this? Such magical abilities that they even cancel out Siderax. Sentry responded swiftly, darting aside as beams appeared around him and chased him. He was concerned that they might hurt his body as well. "I can't keep fleeing like this." Sentry decided to take a chance and let one strike his left while launching a beam attack at Kurama. Fortunately, it wasn't an eraser, so he was just thrown back and hit by all of the beams, whereas Kurama was thrown into the planet's core. His clothes were all burned as a result of the damage, but he was still fine. Sentry was about to enter the fight after clearing his mind when he was smacked in the back with a claw.
What kind of a game is this? Sentry learned that his adversary may materialize anywhere without making a sound or leaving a trail.
The adversary was nowhere to be found, but he had been attacked from behind. "Does he still live down there?" Sentry thought as he rushed at full speed towards the planet's center, knowing he didn't have to worry about this destruction. When Sentry arrived, he saw no evidence of the enemy but heard his voice. Never walk into the darkness without light, Kurama teased Sentry when he found himself in the midst of a minefield. The planet erupted, along with a slew of compressed energy balls that had been waiting for him. They were invisible, and he only noticed them when they burst. As if that wasn't enough, he was hit from 4 directions by a beam that kept him within the explosive field. Enough! Sentry yelled, his rage boiling over at being mistreated, as the darkness within his thoughts began to leak. Kill it! Kill it! It has no right to do this to us! Sentry broke through the attacks with injury all over his body as the sweat murmurs mixed with his wrath. His bones were fractured and he was bleeding from the inside. The attacks had been too much for him, and he would have died if he hadn't pushed through.
The body healed instantly, and he concentrated his psionic abilities, which were rarely employed most of the time. Unlike others, where his physical prowess was sufficient, the enemy forced him to work.
There, Sentry said, grinding his teeth as he directed light at Kurama, who was hidden in the shadows. You found me, Kurama joked as the attack flowed through him and he became immaterial. But can you really defeat me? Kurama chuckled, knowing that this foe was exactly what he needed. Ah, I'm feeling so good, Sentry said, as his foe transformed into a human shape and size. Uzumaki. He recognized his adversary after seeing the form. No, I am his brother. Come on, Sentry, enjoy this fight. Holding back is bad for your health. You are mentally messed up already as a result of this, and you haven't tried to fix it. Everyone needs a break now and then, so let it go and have fun. There are no penalties, only enjoyment. Kurama invited him.
Sentry frowned at him, but he knew what he was saying because he had been having problems lately. His mental state was unpredictable, and his abilities posed a threat to everyone. He was filled with evil and feared he would end up killing everyone. He had no idea what had caused this problem, but it had just happened, and the only way to remedy it was to delete everyone's knowledge of Sentry. Sentry had forgotten himself and lived a normal life for some time after being pushed to act again. Now that his name was well recognized again, the problem was resurfacing, and this remedy was no longer adequate.
It was the source of his everyday tension, yet this guy claims that it formed because he held back. It was entirely his fault that it occurred. How is that possible? That beast within him had killed millions and would kill even more if it was released. You have no idea what I'm going through, so stay out of it and get me out of here. No, Kurama said defiantly. The struggle between the two titans was raging, and it had the potential to destabilize the solar system. It wasn't a particularly skilled bout because the opponent was a novice fighter, but he seemed to be adapting throughout. His abilities shone brightly during the fight, demonstrating how much he could handle, yet the gap couldn't be closed so quickly. Sentry had more strength, but he was mistreated because of his lack of fighting abilities and power over space, as Kurama would always turn intangible to toy with him. Naruto observed the fight with curiosity, and the Avengers joined in as he let them to see what was going on with their comrade. Rogue had returned home, so he brought her to the platform to join them since she might become lonely, and he was all too familiar with that problem. Rogue was shocked to be in the air, but she wasn't terrified because the platform wasn't see-through and Naruto's presence soothed her heart. Even though her new abilities allowed her to survive such a fall with ease, she wasn't used to it and would need more practice with flight and such. Rogue continued her inspections, finding Mystique crouched in a corner, not looking at her, and Naruto with his head on Hinata's thighs. He was sleeping soundly, his face relaxed. How have you been, Rogue? Hinata inquired as she examined the newcomer. It has been very good, but what is going on? We're on a date watching a movie. Want to join? Naruto inquired, turning his head. Are we in trouble? Rogue asked, looking at the screen and seeing Kurama fighting Sentry. Nah, it's just a friendly spar. He doesn't appear to be friendly, he appears to be done with this and wants to tear Kurama apart. That's the beauty of combat, anything fun can happen. Naruto, I fought some villains and won, Rogue boasted, bumping her chest. Wonderful, he said as he turned around, I hope you didn't get hurt. No, they were so slow that I could never get hit. Rogue was relieved that Naruto say something positive because she had noticed he was not a person who gave compliments. Perhaps he's in a good mood, or... No, let's not go there. I see you must be itching to get into action now that you have your powers. How about I design missions for you, like I did for my other students? Naruto offered, motioning for her to sit next him. Rogue studied his face. she was overjoyed because he was treating her so nicely and she obeyed his command. I would love to. Of course, if it doesn't bother you. Rogue said and looked down. She wasn't used to experiencing or displaying such emotions to others, so it was quite humiliating and made her feel embarrassed. Perhaps he thinks I'm weird. I hope I don't come across as a slob. Hey. I would never consider it a burden. It is one of the things that I enjoy, Naruto remarked as he caressed her head, acting the same way he did with Moegi, his first female student. Are you planning on playing with her, dear? If you don't want to take her in, you should be careful. Hinata asked, recalling how it had gone with many other females. He had slept with several girls despite Hinata, not because he enjoyed cheating or anything. Hinata was already aware of it because it began there. Naruto was a highly pure person who had never even masturbated. Others thought he was perverted, but he only did those activities because he found them amusing. His first time was with Hinata when he was 19, they had dated for 2 years before he did the deed because he wasn't interested in sexual practices. To him, love was a pure emotion, and sex was unnecessary. When he slept with Hinata, a dam broke inside him, and his lust was aroused. He couldn't stop himself. The desire burned him from the inside out, and he was drunk on it. Hinata would have cracked that day if Sasuke hadn't intervened after noticing Naruto hadn't shown up for his morning routine. To calm him down, a battle was fought, and Naruto ended up sleeping with other girls to ultimately calm him entirely. Of course, he learned from this and is now more in control, but he still ended up sleeping with Moegi, Hanabi, Ino, Tsunade, and many more girls for various reasons. Love wasn't involved from his perspective because he saw them as family or friends, but it happened in the heat of the moment for him. Some of them simply blackmailed him into it, claiming that if they had their first time with him, they would go on. It happened with Moegi and Hanabi. But Naruto wouldn't blame others because he enjoyed it, especially the attention of attractive girls and sex. He didn't feel the same urge when he activated it for when he was with Hinata just because he could manage it. Naruto slept with other girls on a daily basis to relieve his stress in order to save Hinata from a horrible end and live life correctly. It began as a sexual relationship with the other girls but evolved into something more, and now he was stuck with more girls than he had ever imagined. He couldn't allow such an immoral relationship because it contradicted his values. Naruto accepted them, and the rest of the world found out. It wasn't a big deal because all emperors had harems and such. This allowed Hinata additional female friends with whom she could truly bond, as well as a more balanced sexual life because Naruto would not shatter her by accident. She was the only one available to him now that they were in another universe, and it became perilous if they wanted to spice up their nightlife.
You know I'd never think of such things. I understand, which is why I'm reminding you of the impact your words and actions have on others. Just though I'm by your side doesn't mean some brave girls won't make a move in response to your ambiguous actions.
But I'm acting naturally, and you know how much I despise going against my nature. If you keep acting like this, she'll fall for you. I don't mind, I say. Everyone has a crush once or twice before moving on. That is simply life. Naruto could offer pleasure to a person beyond their limits with a single touch, so imagine spending a whole day with such a human who never stops giving you energy. I will not disappoint, Rogue exclaimed as she loved his touch. It was only the setting that made her feel so good. It was the outcome of Naruto being happy and having a positive impact on those around him. Have you ever had female students? Rogue wanted to question, but she kept it to herself because she knew he had and had slept around before because he was so elderly and he looked really nice looking. Naruto didn't respond because he knew a direct answer from his mouth would make her feel embarrassed, so he left it unsaid. Kurama and Sentry's conflict was clearly one-sided because one side lacked fighting and space manipulation skills. Most people avoided Kurama, Naruto, and Hinata since they had the potential to become intangible. Hinata and Kurama might not be able to do much or anything to Sentry, but Sentry couldn't even touch them if they were careful. For this to be a true duel, someone like Strange would be required, as the Sorcerer Supreme could cancel it out. Of course, there was another approach, such as concentrating so much physical strength in one location that space varies, causing the intangibility to be affected, but Sentry didn't know that and Kurama was already aware of the issue.
Kurama was at his strongest individual form when all of his powers were squeezed into human form. It was much weaker than when he was with Naruto since the blonde troll had complete control, and he added his unique chakra and nature chakra to the mix.
The merger was the strongest form Kurama had ever seen, and his individual power paled in comparison. Despite his immense strength, Kurama easily defeated Sentry in a fight and hit him with strong attacks. Sentry was hit by compressed chakra explosions with greater power than the beams used previously with each punch or kick. Each explosion shook his insides, and he was smacked over and over until wrath totally took over his mind. They were the only ones in this planet, so Kurama liked beating him up and employing all of his skills. It would have been preferable if the opponent could have fought back, but Sentry was developing, so Kurama let him get a couple hits in. The Avengers were watching the conflict from the top of Stark Tower. They had enjoyed seeing Magneto play, but then something happened. Naruto was teasing them, and he was just courting disaster by enraged Sentry. Tony was aware of the mental disorder and was concerned that it would manifest itself before any countermeasures could be implemented. You know, you're one of the reasons behind his demise. Friends do not fear or question one another, and they lift you up and make you feel safe. You people, especially you, Tony, make each other uncomfortable. Naruto divided his thoughts into two halves and utilized a wind clone to communicate with them. Hearing his remarks, they were almost ready to battle to save their friend, but the words pierced them deeply. They couldn't deny them, especially Tony, whose eyes had been drawn to the Hulk. Bruce was another situation where they talked about his rage-induced destruction and treated him like a monster. When anything proved too difficult or risky, they would succumb to fear, limiting their options.
Tony was even prepared to launch Hulk into space if another event like the one when he nearly destroyed a city in Wrath occurred.
Millions more would have died if they hadn't been able to send Hulk falling out of the city. The Avengers were a team, but Tony made judgments and thought of things that only adversaries would think of. When things reached a breaking point and he couldn't think of a better way, he wasn't a very sociable person. Tony was the type to feel that the end justified the means. It didn't matter what he had to give up as long as the conclusion was satisfactory. It was the polar opposite of what Steve believed, which is why they always argued because both of them are very stubborn, whilst the rest didn't have much an opinion on these issues. You speak to us as if you know who we are, Naruto. I assumed we had only met yesterday. Are you attempting to remain calm? Hey, that hurt. I believed you didn't have a heart, but I guess I was mistaken. Naruto tormented them by flying about them like the wind. What are you playing at, Naruto? Allow Sentry to leave, his health will worsen. Steve took a step forward and pleaded. Relax, Steve. Do I appear to be a bad man? You will never meet a more innocent person than me. I'd never even kill a fly. Now, as for our friend over there, this is to assist him. Naruto responded as he sat on Steve's shoulder, transforming into a chibi version. This is hilarious. How do you feel about me now? Feel the agony. Kurama's ecstatic voice could be heard as he thrashed Sentry, and they all glanced at him. Naruto exclaimed, "Oh sorry. What was I saying? It's for my brother and your friend's benefit. He has accumulated too much stress, and his mind must be full with bad thoughts, so this struggle serves as an outlet for it all. He's never fought in a combat where he could just let it all go, so we're forcing him. There is no risk, and if something goes wrong, I will manage it myself. Or do you have any brilliant scheme to assist him? You did make him feel worse by displaying fear, therefore it was only a matter of time before he broke free. How can we believe you? Based on what we've seen, you're likely to kill him if he goes berserk." Tony inquired as he showed him the videos of his actions. "Because I trust him, Strange." Steve turned to face Strange, who materialized out of nowhere as he often did. "Did he hit you over the head or something? You'd have us believe a killer?" Tony inquired sternly. "Whoopsie," Naruto joked as he flew to Strange's side. "Did you actually do it? They were trash, so I took them out. I offer people second chances, but it depends on whether the culprit has regret and whether he wishes to repent. I've honed my skills in these two areas, and I can determine whether a person is nice or bad at a glance, and whether a criminal deserves another opportunity. If you watch the footage attentively, you will notice that many of them were apprehended by police and just a few of them were slain." Naruto had thoroughly described the situation to them, and it was now up to them to decide how to react to the news. He was a man of principles who would never compromise on such matters. He was never willing to let evil run free under his supervision. He had yet to eliminate supervillains since heroes took them seriously and were able to counter them. It was a great game to watch, but average scum were allowed to get through the net. The issue wasn't with heroes since not everyone was capable of taking on the duty of punishing others. This could always blow up in their faces, but it will also blow up in their faces if they do not begin to behave outside of the law. A hero is someone who does the right thing rather than someone who serves the country. You can also be a hero of a country or a war hero, and those heroes aren't always wonderful people, but rather people who are excellent for their country. A country isn't necessarily virtuous since it makes essentially wicked actions for its own profit. Naruto recognized this, and he knew they did as well, but they were ready to ignore it. It was the reason Hinata referred to them as cowards. Strange wanted to tell him to stop and let the court system handle it, but those eyes informed him that this wasn't something he was going to stop. They had talked the day before, and Strange knew Naruto was a man of his words. He cared about people and sacrificed his time, energy, and health for them. But he despised those who caused turmoil. He despised it when people were in agony, and he would go to any length to solve the problem. The man had traveled the world in search of answers and spent time looking for them everywhere, and this was where he ended up. Humanity was self-centered, and freedom without punishment will result in anarchy. Strange had overheard him explain yesterday over tea how much he loathed murdering but had little choice because those people deserved to die for what they had done. It was a warning to others and a display of his might, but Naruto knew that if he left, the world would collapse, so he made sure everyone knew that the planet was his dominion. It didn't matter if he was present or not. Punishment would be meted out, thus an automatic mechanism was devised to address the issue, along with a team of enforcers with these specific skills. His presence was no longer required. Naruto appreciated that others needed him, but he worked hard to help them cope with their own issues because he couldn't always be there for them. Strange wasn't sure how he felt about Naruto killing millions of people, but he was intrigued by his world. He wanted to see the results for himself, so Naruto allowed him to see what he remembered. Strange could see that the bulk of the individuals were in good spirits, in contrast to the drab appearance of the majority of this world. Seeing this, he was tempted to let Naruto try his hand in this world, but he refused. If you can read their minds, why not just hand over evidence to the authorities and let them do the punishment? Too slow, and no guarantee that justice will be served. Why not let me handle it now that I'm here? Instead of you servants, I'll speak with the authorities and get this resolved appropriately. Let us now return to the subject at hand. Strange and the others regarded him with distrust, anticipating him to take over their minds. I don't like mind-controlling people, so Cheel. It's not my style, and you can follow me wherever I go, so quit acting like kids and act like grown-ups. Well, let's talk about it tomorrow. Now that Sentry's issue is under control, I agree with Naruto and will assist if anything happens. But there's a bigger issue. Tony recognized Naruto's nasty smirk and said, "No, don't tell me." "Come on, Tony boy, you already know what it is." "Why?" "Because it makes sense. Why would your planet attract so much nonsense but not the Otsutsuki despite the fact that they live here? Don't you think that's a bit of a delusion? I expected that when I met you guys, but you guys are incredibly slow, which is probably why you have trouble dealing with emergencies." Naruto, alright, I'm not going to criticize them right now. Just as you predicted, our planet had a visitor a long time ago, and they are most likely still here, hidden from view. You already know what they want. Therefore we don't need to speculate on their objectives. We must all work together to find the tree and remove it before it dries up the globe. We must locate them before the event begins, or else it will be too dangerous for all of us. I saw the data, but it said nothing about the tree being invisible, and how could we not know about it? I agree that the guest may have arrived, but the tree incident may not have occurred yet. Tony murmured as he considered the problem and longed to wash away his worry. Wait a minute. Did you forget what you were watching just moments ago? I can manipulate space, and that's something they were born with, whereas I had to learn it. The fact the people here are so strong and the fact that is invisible suggests that the individuals in command are very high rank. We could be in for a terrible struggle, one that could ruin a few solar systems. Are you serious? Please tell me you're joking. Steve was astounded by what he had just heard. It was on a scale beyond his comprehension.
I wish it was a joke, but you have to realize that if low-level members can destroy planets, a high-level member can easily destroy stars.
What are the chances that the battle will result in a large number of casualties? Bruce inquired as his thoughts was racing. No one knows. Do you have any idea? I can check, but it won't be precise because the future changes every second and there are millions of possible outcomes. That's your answer, Bruce. Do you want to go to the next level? Do you want me to assist you? I'm really skilled at infuriating people and absorbing hits. Thank you for the offer. I will consider it. Okay, what do you want from us? Nothing really. Just keep an eye out and assist in the battle if necessary. I never intended to seek assistance. It's just a coincidence that you guys are accessible, albeit only Sentry, Hulk, and Strange are useful in a frontal combat, and Tony can play support. Sorry, but this is out of your league, so you can handle human problems as usual, or do you want power? Naruto said casually as he approached Steve. Naruto was eager to accept the man as a herald because he had a similar outlook to him. Someone who would inherit some of Naruto's abilities and fight on his behalf, much as Naruto enjoyed seeing others battle and increasing the number of competent people. Well, think about it because it's not urgent. Now I'm heading home because it's getting late, so good night and lovely dreams to my new friends. With that, Naruto vanished, and Sentry appeared in his place, unscathed but knocked out. He'd been fighting for an hour at such breakneck speeds that it felt like an eternity. The team convened in the conference room after settling Sentry into the healing chamber so he could rest comfortably. Magneto was no longer alive, so one menace was no longer present. Juggernaut was dead, another menace eliminated. Two pieces of good news followed by a piece of bad news. Aliens with a deadly mentality have taken up residence, and they cannot remove them without extensive planning and danger. There is a threat to the world, but they don't know where it is. Because the two deceased were not planetary dangers, the negative news outweighed any good news for the organization. Bruce had already excused himself, leaving only 3 of them. Do you really believe him? This is our world, and he is determined to force his ideals down our throats. I can see him slaughtering a lot of people shortly, are you sure? Tony stated as he sipped from the bottle. He needed some booze in his system. I've talked to him for a long time, at least 20 hours. It was a lengthy debate about trivial matters, magic, chakra, and ideas. He is well educated and clever. He is a hard worker who prioritizes others. He is not required to do this, but he does it because he believes it is his responsibility. He appreciates the basic things in life and, as you can see, is mostly a playful person. His beliefs are formed by his life experiences and his desire to save the world from chaos and discord. He, unlike us, has witnessed conflicts and the effects they have on individuals. He has felt pain from every viewpoint in order to better comprehend people. He walked different lives utilizing his powers and experienced them directly, not just through others. I believe he is the right person to lead others based on what I have seen and felt from him. We are protectors against evil, but we are not leaders.
Even you must admit that many of the issues your team is facing are the outcome of humanity's evil. I'm dealing with external challenges, but there are times when danger from within threatens to derail everything.
How many times has the world been on the verge of annihilation because people can't just work together and undermine each other? If the people want him, I believe we can let him try to lead the globe. If something goes wrong, we can always stop him together later. We also need his assistance in identifying and combating these threats. You know, he might just abandon us and let us weaken the enemy for him, so consider all options and don't let your emotions make the decision for you. Strange explained that Naruto was a man with whom he had a spiritual connection, thus there was no untruth between them. Nobody has ever done something like this before, but Naruto did it merely to create trust. This gesture had moved him the most since it was more than just allowing someone to touch your heart. It was the reason he believed in Naruto. Will he be a good ruler? Will he be patient if we want him to listen to the people? Steve inquired. Steve, are you sure you're serious? Tony was so taken aback that the bottle slid from his grasp and soaked his clothes. Tony, I'm not sure what you think of me after all these years of working together, but you know I serve the people, not the government. I was young and blind at the time, so I didn't notice. I was helpless before, so I could only do the bare minimum, and I did the same now. I am no longer blind and can see that the world is not black and white. I am aware of what our country has done and how many awful things it has permitted in the name of progress or study. It hurts me to see this happening, yet our words are being ignored. I've sent letters and done all I could with my position, but the impact has been minimal, so why not try something different? Is it important that he is an outsider if the people can have a better life? Am I hearing this correctly? Tony asked, shaking his head. You're putting our country at peril because Strange believes in this person. Yes, do you not trust him? You've only just met him. To be clear, I trust Naruto more than anyone else because he enabled our souls to communicate on a personal level. It means I was aware of all of his emotions at the time he spoke with me. You can't lie in this situation, thus everything was true. Tony sat back down and glanced at the ceiling. This was all too much for him. Everything had been a lot simpler before, but now they were debating whether a king should rule the planet. Tony wasn't stupid either, as the government had been doing shady things, some of which nearly killed him. They were still hungry for his research and had already stolen part of it. Only idiots would naively trust the government in this situation, but it was a significant matter. Taking into account all the nonsense that came from the government despite everything they had done, Tony sighed and said, "Fine, we'll let him win the people over before we go with it. He should take it carefully and build it normally, rather than utilizing mind control. We won't stop him from taking control if the people want him. We'll need to notify other organizations about the latest developments, and I'll start working on countermeasures now that he's given me more data for accurate development, but who will move around with the man to see if he's not messing around? Because both of you are going to be busy, I'll accompany him and see if he's actually good for the people or not." Steve stated that he trusted Strange but wanted to see the facts for himself. "I will inform him of our decision so that he does not walk into the White House in the morning, and I appreciate your listening to my words." Strange muttered this as he stood up and left the duo. "Once again, it's just the two of us. Do you want to drink away the night?" "Just this once, the development has made me dizzy," Steve stated as he stood up and went to get some bottles and glasses. The next morning at the Xavier Institute, the children were ecstatic, and everyone was having a good time. "Why did you do it?" "Do what?" Naruto inquired, looking at Jean as he trained Bobby in the early morning with Rogue, Kitty, Cyclops, and Nightcrawler. "Why are you being so coy with me?" Naruto was astonished when Jean attacked him in rage. As a result of her newly released powers, she was currently unstable. "Wow, simply wow. You have the audacity to attack me, ha ha ha." Naruto chuckled as he countered her strike with his own and gradually pulled her down. "Why would you change the gender of everyone? Everyone is freaking out right now." Jean gritted her teeth as the ground beneath her cratered as she pushed back. The force concealed deep within had been unleashed, and it was becoming stronger by the day. "But their reactions were hilarious, and you didn't see the part where I turned some of them into fighting squirrels." Naruto laughed as he went closer, punching Rogue with Bobby and kicking Kurt, who was also laughing. They'd worked on it together and had fun with it in the morning. "Can you not play around with other people's bodies like that? What if they get stuck?" Jean asked, remembering what occurred with Blob the day before. She calmed down and reasoned with him, knowing that his motives were not evil. "Jean, I would never harm an innocent person. I did it because the kids enjoyed it. Your reaction was unjustified because I have tested all of my powers millions of times and nothing could possibly go wrong. Because I don't like it when people attack me like that, this is your punishment." Naruto whispered softly as he used his telekinesis to hold Jean down and caressed her lovely red hair, which turned orange at his command. Jean locked his gaze on him, staring into his eyes and the other's emotions.
"Sorry, my mind just went to the worst-case scenarios," Jean murmured, and the pressure was relieved, but the training had only just begun, and she was sent tumbling into others by a surprise strike.
"Training has only just begun, so don't get distracted," Naruto murmured as he quickly grabbed her up and tossed her at Kurt, who was attacking his back, sending both kids flying. The other students watched in awe as the team played with such a monster, wondering if they were overreacting or if staying away from him was the appropriate thing to do given his excellent results as a teacher. "I'm not going to join them. Mr. Uzumaki is a nice guy, but his training is ridiculous. I'd take Mr. Logan. Yeah, just watching them fight is excruciating. I shudder every time I recall the scene in which Cyclops loses his leg. Damn. Why did you have to remind me? Kids, go to your rooms and get ready for the classes." Storm approached the group of children who were observing the training session, and they hurried away as she looked at the new teacher. She had yet to speak with him because he was a very busy man. "I'd like to talk to you as well, so let's get some tea and talk." While a wood clone possessing a portion of his mind fought the youngsters, Naruto appeared beside her. Storm was the descendant of an old line of African priestesses, all of whom had white hair, blue eyes, and the ability to wield magic. Her mother, Indare, was the princess of a Kenyan tribe who married the American photojournalist David Munro and came to Manhattan, where Aurora was born. Aurora and her parents relocated to Cairo, Egypt, when she was 6 months old, and a plane disaster destroyed their home when she was 5. Aurora's parents were killed, but she survived and was buried near her mother's body under rubble. This traumatic effect left Aurora with extreme claustrophobia, which she still has today. Aurora escaped the debris of her ruined house with only the ragged clothes on her back and her mother's hereditary ruby. Aurora was found homeless and orphaned by a gang of street urchins who took her to their leader, Ahmed El-Jibar. Ahmed taught Aurora the skill of stealing, and she quickly became his prize pupil, excelling at both picking pockets and locks. Aurora picked the pocket of an American tourist while in Cairo. The man, however, was Charles Xavier, a powerful mutant telepath who utilized his skills to prevent the heist. She worked for the Shadow King, an entity of darkness who has slipped into numerous realms and uses chaotic vessels to accomplish his bidding. Aurora had become the guardian of her tribe by the time Charles built the academy. Her weather-controlling abilities have awoken and expanded over time. Her life had never been easy or without battle, but this dark-skinned beauty dressed in white overcame all odds to stand before him with a strong resolve. Naruto was aware of all of their backgrounds when assisting them, and in order to assist them correctly, you needed to know the entire picture. She was also one of those who did not fully utilize their abilities, being restricted only by their own imagination. I have a half hour before class to accompany you, Mr. Uzumaki. Storm was also fascinated by the man. He didn't waste time, so she assumed he had something significant to say. In the morning, Aurora and Naruto sat in the garden with a cup of tea. It was a little chilly outside, but the fresh air of nature made everything better. She stared at the man who had become the buzz of the town due to his abilities and acts. He had defeated the Juggernaut, Sentry, and Magneto all at the same time. This was an accomplishment that none of them could accomplish. He possessed the most powerful abilities she had ever seen, excepting Galactus, but she couldn't tell the difference. She had never spoken to him during his 2 days here, but she had heard a lot about him. He was a pleasant and nice person to converse with. When it came to teaching, he was a monster. He was both brutal and amusing. He was like the bright sun, brightening everything around him. Aurora couldn't refute any of them because she felt wonderful in his company. It was his natural aura that relaxed everyone, especially her, because she had a connection to the world and could see and feel energy. He was always warm, and judging by the smile on his face, he knew what he did to others. I am delighted to have the attention of a beautiful lady like you, but you appear to be preoccupied, so I will return to the subject at hand, Naruto remarked, winking at Aurora and smiling at her. He thought the woman was beautiful on the inside and out. She possessed intriguing abilities and a commanding personality. He was, as he had stated, a terribly immoral man. He had a thing for gorgeous girls with unique stories and powers. He desired to love them and be loved in return. He desired to heal their suffering and elevate them to a higher level of consciousness. It would be beneficial to both parties. Well, he wouldn't mind if it didn't go to that stage because friends were plenty. Thank you for the compliment, and I apologize for staring. Your presence is quite unique, and it caused me to lose myself for a moment, Aurora remarked calmly as she placed her hands beside the tea and looked down before looking up. I get that a lot, but it's fine because you liked it. Now I want to talk about you. I've gathered information on all of you and am aware of your abilities. Aurora, do you know how to use magic? Aurora knew why he was asking because she came from a magical family, and it was a reasonable question. I only have rudimentary knowledge on this subject because I've been focused on my mutant powers and lack of a magical arts teacher. Are you going to suggest teaching me magic? It's good that you're a smart girl. That's what I meant. You have good magical potential, and it'd be a shame to waste it. We can get some classes from Dr. Strange, and if you have any problems with him, I'll accompany you. I trust the doctor, but I'm not sure if he has time to spend on teaching me, Aurora said, taking a sip from her cup. Don't worry, I'll handle it, and you need this. Your power increasing means your chances of survival increase, and you can better protect this world. It appears that the descriptions were correct, Naruto. You are a really nice person, and I will definitely repay this favor in the future. Don't talk like that, we're friends and colleagues, and all I want in return is your happy smile. I won't feel bad about just taking it for free so you can ask me anything later, but for now, you know about my powers, and I have some questions. Yes, weather control. Are you going to ask about alien weathers and see if you can replicate them? Yes, weather control. You can change the weather to extremes, so I believe that should be possible, and you're wondering what else you could do. Yes, all of that. Haha, smart girl. Well, I have been to countless planets during my time, and there have been winds that could cut space, winds so hot that they melted steel, red lighting that was faster than light and extremely destructive, extreme negative temperatures that even the sun would freeze over, and diamond rain and such. You can check them whenever you want from this device. It will show the exact scene I witnessed and even give you the location. Naruto said as he handed Aurora a crystal containing the memories so she could reproduce them. Thank you. I needed something like this to boost my abilities. I saved that golden smile for the library, and if you're feeling so good about it, why don't you go on a date with me, and we can have some fun and relax after a job well done? Excuse me, aren't you married? Storm asked, his face solemn. She didn't have such ideas before coming here and wouldn't have given it a second thought, but she'd been here for a decade and monogamy had become the standard. I am. So what's the problem with that? My wife already knows, and I have more than one wife in the first place. Polygamy is normal to me, and my wives are fine with it, and I wasn't inviting you to anything like that. It was just a friend's kind of invitation. Storm was embarrassed by her reaction when he responded, sorry about that. I thought you were trying to cheat on your wife. I don't mind the polygamy because it's your choice, but I can't accept cheating. No way, I'd never lie to my lovers. I care too much about them to hurt them like that. I see. I don't mind going on a date because I don't have anything planned for today. Alright, I'll meet you at 4 p.m., that's perfectly fine. Then see you later, Storm. Have fun teaching the kids. Naruto then vanished from view. Aurora took in the discourse while looking at the empty seat. He was a gentleman and a ladies' man. That's exactly what she got from him. She could see why ladies were drawn to him and thought he was gorgeous as well. He had the raw feeling and the lovely aura that drew her attention. Am I staring at a married man? Storm has little experience with romance and had never been in a serious relationship. She knew it would happen sooner or later, but she never anticipated it would be this way. He isn't bad, so let's see how it goes, Storm reasoned, not minding testing the grounds. Naruto arrived in the sky above New York, surveying the city to decide where to fly, when he sensed danger. Someone had latched onto him, and the attack was unavoidable. Come at me, shouted Naruto as his chakra cloak materialized and twisted space to protect those around him. There was an explosion, but Naruto was thrown to the ground as a force struck him, but there was no harm because he cancelled out its effect. The opponent had unleashed a space assault on him with the intent of erasing him, but Naruto could also manipulate space, so the balance was restored. Otsutsuki Elder, coward won't even show himself, Naruto realized the opponent was testing him while hidden in the shadows. Naruto looked about, but the opponent had left no evidence, so he couldn't find him. I definitely need to find the hideout as quickly as possible. Maybe collaborate with Strange and others to destabilize the spatial dynamics around the solar system in order to uncover any pocket dimensions connected to here. Seems like an idea, you should look into it, Kurama said as he opened his eyes after the abrupt attack. No, let's wait a minute. First, we must become acquainted with other useful components. I'm concerned about the harm we might cause, so we need the help of the people of the world. You lucky dude, one of your targets is down there. I know, I'm just lucky sometimes, Naruto said as he smacked onto the sand below. Naruto looked up from the water to discover that he had collided with a gorgeous being. I apologize for the inconvenience, it was not on purpose, Naruto remarked politely, looking at the woman in her bikini, who had blonde hair and a curvy body. I apologize for attacking you. I mistook you for assaulting me. My name is Susan Storm. Who may you be? Susan inquired, as she couldn't recall anyone dressed like Naruto.
Does he look like a mutant or an alien? Naruto Uzumaki, you don't need to be so wary, I am not a threat. I am here to explore new areas as I have seen everything in my world and help this world combat some threats. What about you? Why is such a gorgeous woman such as you alone? Naruto said with a smile as he used chakra to dry his clothes.
Thank you. Would you like to hang around for a bit? Susan inquired with a smile. She couldn't tell if he was smitten with her looks or not, but she wanted to see how he would respond among other people to determine whether he was a threat or not. And he looks terrific. He must have worked out a lot to achieve that body, Susan thought, without feeling guilty because her so-called lover had proven to be an asshole, taking away every part of her in the team and even assuming the lead as spokesman when she was the one who was qualified for it. She was in a bad mood today since Reed had been ignoring her since they began hanging out on a regular basis. There was never a good time for them, and he was always confined in the lab. Susan admired his brains, but it didn't mean she didn't want a typical romance. Susan was assessing Naruto to determine if he posed a threat while also attempting to make Reed envious. "I would be honored to accompany you for the day," Naruto said calmly, like the woman in front of him since she exuded selflessness and was simply too darn lovely. He could feel her worries and even her bleak futures. Naruto was opposed to her having a child with Reed since that child was too powerful and unpredictable. "I'm sorry, but you're a terrible lover, so don't blame me for taking her away." "Then allow me to assist you, as I can see that I ended up injuring your leg," Naruto stated as he took her hand and dragged her up in the air, carefully touching her leg. The golden chakra touched her leg and flowed throughout her body, providing warmth and making her feel safe. It gave her peace of mind, melted her anxieties, and offered her joy she had never known. Naruto's pulse raced as he saw the woman in his arms' blissful face, but he didn't want to take advantage. "Are you okay now?" Naruto let go of her leg and she floated beside him, powered by his abilities. "Yes," Susan replied calmly, but within she felt the loss of touch, which made her feel embarrassed about her behavior. "Wait. What was I thinking? What was it? It felt so good." Naruto gazed at Susan as she fell silent. He knew it was the effect of his chakra on others because he could connect with people since the day he merged Ninshu. So his chakra symbolized him. It was filled with unending love and hope in his heart, especially now that it was filled with something else, lust. "How is the food?" Susan inquired as she sat across from him. They had both walked about and gone to a cafe. "It's similar to what I've tasted before, and I believe we have even better food than this. Would you like to try it out at a later date?" Naruto said softly as he bit into the sandwich.
"That's a fantastic offer. I can't wait to try out new cuisine," Susan exclaimed cheerfully, the walk along the way and his behavior revealing his nice disposition.
"From what I see, he is not bad, but only time will tell if today was an exception or not. However, he is really terrific company. I feel so at ease around him." "I don't think I've ever felt that," Susan thought as she took a sip of tea and gazed at Naruto's face, wondering what those scars were. "These are birthmarks, not scars. I can't sustain permanent damage because my body heals itself to a perfect condition. What about you? What are your powers?" "I felt like I was hit by a force field, so are you some kind of psychic?" Naruto inquired, wanting to learn new things and how it worked without chakra. "Astute observation, yes, my ability is within that field. How about you?" Susan became further captivated. The man was keenly aware, even if his demeanor suggested he was overconfident. "Elemental manipulation and cloning. I am a leader so I have to be everywhere at once so I can send a clone to do my job," Naruto responded honestly, skimming the surface of his most prevalent skills. "That is really something enviable. I wish I could make a clone sometimes. Life would be so much easier with such ability. You said leader of a different world. Is it a place I could visit and what kind of place is it?" Susan said as she got more open with him, believing he wouldn't decline. "I can't really tell because we all have our own opinions, but from what I can tell, my world is a lot better in many ways. It is peaceful and has high-level tech everywhere, not just the few, though it is still lower than this world's hidden tech. Right now it is not possible, but after a month or so, I should be able to make contact and if you wish, I would definitely love to show you around," Naruto said in a gentle tone as he stared. "I'll be glad to. An opportunity to see another world doesn't come along every day," Susan said politely as she realized his gaze was magnetic and she was being affected by his aura of hope that drew people to his side. "Sis. What are you doing?" a young voice from the side said, and she turned around to see her brother Johnny alone, as his girlfriend had broken up with him because to his heroism. "Johnny, I'm just having fun with my new friend," Susan explained calmly. "Hello. My name is Uzumaki Naruto. You are a lucky boy. Your sister adores you," Naruto said as he stood up to shake hands. "Nice to meet you, and thank you, I guess," Johnny remarked as he drew closer and whispered. "Are you trying to hit on my sister? If anything happens to her, I will make sure you pay." He conveyed his threat by attempting to burn Naruto's hand.
"Don't worry, little brother. I will never hurt her like some men, and I like you as well, little brother," but keep your powers in check as sometimes I do not like to be tested, Naruto said in a kind tone as he administered a little force that caused Johnny a lot of agony.
Boys, separate, Susan interjected, separating the two. Hee hee. Don't be so worried. It's just typical male bonding. We'll get along fine because I like Johnny a lot and his power is really interesting, Naruto said with a chuckle. Yes sis, no problem. I like the guy, straightforward like the way I like it. Johnny backed Naruto's friendship by putting his arm around Naruto's shoulder, despite the fact that Naruto was taller than him. You guys are truly a mystery, it looked like you were about to fight, Susan sighed, as she couldn't make sense of these relationships at times. That's what most men ask about women, but I'm quite busy right now, so I won't bother you too. As he soared away, Johnny replied, see you later, Naruto. Nice brother you have, Naruto replied as he returned his attention to Susan. Sorry, he can be a little overprotective at times. Are you hurt? Susan asked, grabbing his hand. You know I really like you, and these things you do have tempted me since the first time I saw you, Naruto remarked as he held her chin and forced her to gaze up into his eyes. Would you like to give it a shot? Susan was torn. Her relationship with Reed was weak because he didn't show any concern for her or even act as a lover, and here was someone who she could clearly sense his love and affection for. I think it's too fast. Let us get to know each other a little bit more, she said, but she's not a little girl. As you wish. I will always make time for you so that we can get to know each other better. It's late today and you must have work, so a parting gift for you to remember me by, Naruto muttered, covering her lips with his, slowly but steadily melting into his embrace. She felt pleasure and warmth like she'd never felt before. It was seductive and demanded her submission, but she still wanted to play hard. Naruto let go of her after kissing her 3 times, her knees weak from the pleasure, and she wet herself for the first time, not even when she had sex with Reed. Sorry, I think I overdid it. I'll deliver you home because you don't seem to be in the right state, Naruto remarked with concern as he stared at the inebriated woman. It had been a while since he had broken a virgin female, and he had forgotten how they reacted when he tried. Naruto was intrigued by the Fantastic Four and would have met them in the normal course of events, but his encounter with Susan changed everything. He didn't want this toxic relationship to continue, and Susan attracted his attention. Finally, because he did not want their child to be born, this connection had to be ended. But he was going to follow the appropriate measures and avoid making Reed furious, or else it would leave a sour taste in everyone's mouth. To be continued.
That's it for this part, guys. Thanks for listening to this video. I hope you did enjoy the Predator story, and if you did, like, share, and subscribe for more. And thank you all for help and support, and have a great day.